Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our first look, I know, weird to say that with something that's been in the game for so long, at the Tier 8 French heavy cruiser Saint-Louis. So, with that being said, let's get to our commander. We're running Andre Lemonnier, as close as I got. Francesco Mimbelli and Norman Scott as our inspirations. Beyond range, igniter, punch through, fixated, fully packed. The usual heavy cruiser sort of AP hybrid build that I love to run on my heavy cruisers. In terms of the rest of the build, we're running aiming systems mod 1, steering gears mod 2. You could absolutely run propulsion mod, but I feel like this thing needs help in the steering department. So, yeah, we run steering. And then, of course, we're running concealment. And we're running the gunfire control system in the final slot. We are fully upgraded. We choose to use the main battery reload booster for obvious reasons. And we are running repair party. And, of course, it has engine boost on top of that. Now, we are running the Italian Unity flag, because if you squint just right, kind of looks like a Spartan helmet. And then, of course, the siren camo, because most of the time you're going to be setting things on fire. So, it kind of works, right? Specs, survivability, 44,000 hit points. Seems a little low, not going to lie. I don't remember, I don't really pay much attention to other heavy cruiser hit point pools, but like, for instance, let's just look at Tier 8, pull this away, put this on. Yeah, let's do this. So, for instance, let's look at the Americans real quick. So, something like the Seattle or the Buffalo. Buffalo is a heavy cruiser. So we'll go with that. So 47,000. So it is a little bit low. Didn't say it was super bad, but it is definitely a little bit low. So I'm not wrong there. Sorry. I got sidetracked. I had to look. Anyway, with a 19% torp reduction, you don't want to be taking torps. And this thing is agile enough with this build that you should be able to dodge pretty much all torps. Unless, of course, you get caught. But 203mm 55 caliber MLE 1934s. You get 9 of those, reaching out to 18.4 kilometers, reloading in 7.1 seconds with this build, which seems a little bit slow until you realize that you got 3 main battery reload boosters. So then you're like, okay, well, that kind of makes up for it. 180-degree turn time, as with a lot of heavy cruisers, is not good. But I feel like these are exceptionally not good when it comes to the Traverse. HE shell maximum damage 2800 with an 18% chance to set fires. That 18% chance comes and goes. I swear to God, I don't know what it is about this ship, but I can't get consistent fires to save my life. We do eventually get them going, but it just seems like I will shoot 30, 40 salvos and get like 1 fire. It's like, really? What is this? And then all of a sudden you'll get like 5 fires back to back and you'll be like, okay, RNG had to balance itself out. AP shell maximum damage 5,292 seems a little bit, I don't know. It's hard for me to remember because I don't remember all the numbers of the AP damage of the other cruisers. But I want to say the American, I mean, it would make sense. The American heavy cruisers are shooting super heavy AP at this point, so it makes sense that they would have a little bit more damage, but yeah, it's just one of those weird things. Secondaries, though, you do have 14 100mm 55 caliber CAD MLE 1945s that reach out to 5.2 kilometers, reloading in just 3 seconds. HE shell maximum damage of 1,400 with an 8% chance to set fires. Torpedoes. You have 550mm Lance torpedoes. Torpedoes. I don't know how they pronounce that, but you get 6 of them. 1 triple launcher either side of the ship. Reloading in 90 seconds. The 180-degree turn time no one cares about on torps. Maximum damage of 14,833, so it's a little bit better than most, like, what are these? These would be 550. That would put them right at, what, a 22-inch? I think it's 22-inch. Somebody's going to have to do the math. Anyway, torp detectability is 1.3 kilometers, so pretty average there. Torp range is 9 kilometers, so for the tier, not particularly amazing, but they do come in handy when you need them, which are usually in a defensive sort of thing. But if you're being chased, these can come in real handy. Torpedo speed of 60 knots, so not fast either. Not quite Italian torps, but not far off. AA defense should be pretty good. 20 millimeter 70 caliber Mark IVs, you get 12 of those, doing 43 damage, which everybody knows is the best number, out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 20 millimeter 70 caliber Oerlikon Mark 24s. You get 16 of those, doing 49 damage per second, reaching out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 40 millimeter 56 caliber Bofors Mark I, 16 of those, doing 90 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. And then you have the 40 millimeter 56 caliber Bofors Mark II. You get 16 of those, doing 64 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. And then you have the 100 millimeter 55 caliber CAD MLE 1945. You get 14 of those, dual-purpose secondaries, and they do 104 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers. So you got a pretty decent layered defense, but it's not amazing at the end of the day. But it's still better than a lot of ships, so it's not bad. Maximum speed of 33 knots until you hit the engine boost, and then you'll get up to about 39.7, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood with this build. You could probably get that higher if you want, but there's no real need to. Of course, 720 meter turning circle is not amazing for a cruiser, but that's part of the reason. Is you get to these high tiers like this, and the cruisers aren't that much smaller than battleships at these tiers, so it makes sense that they start to get worse turning radius. Rudder shift with this build isn't that bad at 8.1 seconds. It is for a cruiser, and that's with a rudder on there. Remember, we get steering gears in the second slot, where we put steering gears in the second slot, so that's better than it was, which is why I said it needed a little bit of help. I want to say baseline it's like 12 seconds. It's not good for a cruiser. And you need to be able to dodge incoming rounds in this thing, because it does not like to get hit, especially by battleships. Detectability range by sea is 11.9, also not good for a cruiser at all. 11.5 by air, or sorry, 7.5 by air. 2 is always guaranteed, and an 8.2 kilometer smoke firing penalty. Statistics. I've played a whopping 3 games, and I am not planning on playing any more games in this thing. I am not a big fan of this ship. I actually don't mind a lot of the lower tier French cruisers. But once you get up to the Charles Martel and beyond, the tit for tat that you lose, or that you get in the lower tiers, you just can't do that at higher tiers. Battleships will send you back to port so fast you don't even know what hit you, right? Like, you used to be able to kind of bully just about everything in the French cruisers, and then of course, like once you get up to like tier 7 and beyond, the battleships start being able to hit you significantly harder than you can deal damage back to them. So you got to be a lot more careful. All right, but 47% main gun accuracy showcases. These guns are fantastic. The high velocity French guns that you know and love, being able to hit targets accurately at longer ranges, not bad. And they're not super high velocity like a lot of the Russians are, so you can utilize the edges of islands and stuff like that to be able to hide and still get fire on targets. Torpedo accuracy, not great, but 22%. Better than my usual torp accuracy. Which, again, I think lends itself to the fact that I tend to use these in a defensive capability rather than as an aerial denial. But our average damage, 105,000, pretty standard for cruisers. Average XP is not great, but then again, we've lost 2 of the 3 battles that we've played, so it makes sense that it would be a little bit low on the XP side of things. But average potential damage is 1.1 million, which is sounds pretty high for a cruiser. If I'm being 100%, that seems pretty high for a cruiser. But again, small sample size. You could tell I ain't usually hiding. Foreshadowing? Anyway. Let's look at the armor, shall we? 25 millimeters of bow armor plating, and this is really the big problem. Anything with 15-inch guns and above goes right through this thing, and given the short nature of the... I guess it's not that short, but you take a lot of damage through the bow is what I'm saying. You do have a bit of an armor belt, but it's so flat that it doesn't feel like an armor belt at all. Like, trying to angle in this thing is a lesson in futility. So, just keep that in mind. And that is because it's not actually an armor belt, it's your citadel. All right? You got a huge raised citadel, meaning that any guns that hit you pretty much just completely annihilate you. But There is an interesting caveat to the Citadel. It's a weird Citadel shape, and it's that way for a reason. Most people are not sniping your turrets, right? Obviously, you've got the shells coming in through the front and the rear as you're trying to dodge, but that's generally the Citadel area. If people are aiming for the center of your ship, there's a good chance that you could be overpinned by them. It's not something that I would like to put to test, because it's a good way to get sent back to port real quick, but it is a thought. Because your Citadel in the middle is actually narrower than the rest of the ship. It's kind of weird. But anyway, with that being said, let's get to the overview. Sure shot. Shells with a good ballistic trajectory. That's exactly what I was talking about. These shells are your French high velocity guns that they don't really lose penetration over range. We'll showcase a little bit of that. But they're also easy to aim, especially like when you're shooting at faster, more agile targets. These shells can find their mark more often than not as long as you aim well. Broad launch, wider maximum spread of the torpedo launcher. Again, I don't usually use that on these French cruisers, but it is a thing. And then barrage can be equipped with main battery reload booster. The Saint Louis, a heavy cruiser project included in the last shipbuilding program during wartime. The ship was equal to ships of the preceding project, but the absence of treaty restrictions allowed her to have a larger displacement and reinforced AA capabilities. She was designed in 1940. Doesn't look like she was ever built. But, I mean, overall, other than the fact that it's set so high out of the water and is so flat, like, you can tell this is not a good design, or at least not a modern design anyway. By the time you get into, like, later into the war, like, most of the armor that you're going to see, armor profiles that you'll see, are going to be angled, and this is just so flat. I mean, look at that. That looks like a god-darn Minnesota broadside right there, and that's not a compliment, all right? It's not a compliment. But with that being said, she is an okay-looking ship. She's not my favorite-looking ship. Again, she's just too much of her sitting out of the water. I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel like with a stiff breeze, she's going to flip over and go bottoms up, which is not ideal, right? I think we can all agree. But with all of that being said, I think it's time to get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we are going to be on Crash Zone in the Saint Louis, and we are bottom tier. Shocker. Tier 8. It's a thing. Anyway, we are going to try to move off to the right side and use the islands as best we can. There are 4 destroyers on this map, which is going to make the amount of damage that I put up in this one that much more impressive, if you ask me. Or it's just me taking advantage of a really, really bad battleship captain. And I'll let you guys be the judge. If you're the battleship captain in this video, I apologize, but you are about to experience hell on earth. But anyway, we're going to push off to the right side. I cannot believe that I never actually ended up recording a video in this. Like, I know that I bought it for a specific thing. I want to say it was a Bureau project that I bought it for, and I just never had an interest in playing it. So, I mean, there's that. But yeah. I don't mind the French cruisers, but they're so squishy at high tiers, and it's just like one mistake. And I guess that goes for a lot of the cruisers at high tier, but man, when you're used to playing ships like Balti and Buffalo and Des Moines, and just how nasty those ships can be, and then you get into something like this, and just like every shell that touches you just takes all of your hit points. It's like, why? Why would I play this when I can play so many other ships? But anyway, you guys know I'm not known for my cruiser play. However, to say that I am not able to play cruisers would just be downright false. The difference between me and a lot of cruiser players out there is that I am not as patient. Alright? I don't have the ability to sit behind an island for the entire game and pray to God that my teammates actually spot and do useful things. Right? Like, that's just not me. I tend to push the action. However, That is not what's about to happen in this video. In this video, I am going to be that stereotypical cruiser commander that just sits behind the island watching as my teammates spot for us, and then we just get to eat all of the DPM that you have to offer out of these things. But I want you to pay attention. After we do some damage with the AP, we switch over to the HE. Now, the one thing that I will say is an underrated skill for every cruiser player needs to know is AP and HE. You need to know when you should be shooting one or the other, right? There are times and places for both. And to just flat out ignore one shell type over the other is going to be not being as useful as you could be. But this poor Montana here, I mean, he is just, he's gonna, what was that? First of all, can we just talk about how every one of those shells fell short? I am aiming deck line, and every one of those shells hit the water and dropped short. Like, how high do I have to aim to get these shells to hit the ship? Now, we are hitting his belt here, so we're shattering a lot. But it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to set fires, man. I'm just trying to get some fires going. And you'll see how many shells I've got to actually hit the man with to get a fire. Now, why is it that when I'm in a battleship, any shell that splashes the water within a 30-foot radius of my ship causes a fire? But when I'm in a cruiser shooting at a battleship, it takes me 8 years and 50 salvos of hitting a target to finally get a fire. Like, what is the difference? Like, I really want to know. Like, I don't understand that. But it doesn't matter because we finally get one fire, and this Montana makes the age-old oopsie of battleship captains everywhere, which is putting out a single fire. And he is about to be rewarded for his trouble with karma. How many times do I say it? There's the double fire. Every single time. Every time throughout the course of history. Every time that you damage con a single fire, the very moment that your damage con goes on cooldown, it'll be a double fire. Guarantee it. 100% of the time. You think I'm joking? Just go back through any of my videos, any of my live streams, watch it. You can see it. The evidence is there. Every single time I damage con a single fire, as soon as it goes on cooldown, the next HE shell causes a double fire. I don't know what it is, but that's the way it works, man. I don't make the rules. I just go by them, right? But we're going to try to use the island here, and you can see Darkman in the destroyer is actually spotting us right now, which is not ideal. But once he goes away, again, I have the island covered to just sit here and farm this Montana, and thankfully this Shima has been just graciously spotting for us this whole time, which is unusual for me. I don't get that very often. Like, I just don't. Most of the time I have to spot with my face. And in a cruiser that's as squishy as this one, that's not fun, alright? But when you do get to use the full DPM to its advantage, and then you're getting the fires on top of that, and the double fires, and like, it is a beautiful thing. You can see he does go ahead and put out the 2 fires, obviously. This time he waited until he got 2 fires. But for his troubles, he's going to go ahead and he's going to burn some more. Because as soon as he gets behind that island, like, my shells are still able to lob it. And, bonk, there's the fire. We get another shot out over the top of the island, continuing to shoot and lob from the moon. We're at far enough that we're able to lob over Mount Everest, and it comes in at such a steep angle that he can't really hide from it, really. But we're going to go ahead and load up the AP, and I'm going to show you guys what the AP can do out of this thing. It is armor piercing out of a heavy cruiser, after all. So watch this man's health as we get a good-looking broadside at still long range for a cruiser to be shooting at a broadside. But look at the results, man. 3 full pins, we'll take those. He does angle away here, but look at these pins, though. They're still chunking him. Hitting that superstructure, coming in through the deck. These don't come in as steeply as a lot of the heavy cruisers would, but they still come in at a decent enough angle that they can penetrate deck if they hit the right spot. But we start getting less damage on our salvos shooting at him, and so rather than continue that problem, we're going to go ahead and switch back over to HE. Like, I wanted to continue to farm this guy with AP too, just to showcase both. Like, I wanted to showcase both the HE, which we already did, and the AP, where I showcased on the HE side of things how sometimes it can take a while to get the, and there's Darkman in his Holland. I was hoping that he would come out. I was saving a reload booster for him initially, but I end up using it later on because he decides to like run away from me, probably for his best interest. But we have controlled this side thanks to the spotting of our teammate, and this is what I'm talking about with the agility. Like these ships are cruisers at the end of the day, and with a quick rudder build, like I'm not saying go full hipper mode, but if you go with like at least one steering gear, you can get the rudder to be serviceable, and then that's all you really need to dodge a lot. Like you don't really need to go full crazy double rudder, just full craziness, right? But giving yourself the ability to kind of be shifty is kind of nice, all right? But when you commit to a turn in this ship, you'll realize pretty quickly that it's not an ideal scenario, right? Like, these things may start to turn quickly, but like a lot of the cruisers at the higher tiers, it's deceptive. Now, here, he gets a pretty decent chunk on us, but at the end of the day, he is done here. We catch him broadside. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the AP. He has sold out completely to try to murder us here. He wants us dead. He has been embarrassed by me the entire game. He wants us dead. Unfortunately for him, going broadside to a cruiser that has a reload booster, probably not your best play. As we swiftly send him to the Shadow Realm. But we're at 139,000 damage. And when I saw that, I was like, holy crap. Like, where did that come from? Then I got to thinking, like, we've been basically having that man burn for the entire game. Also, picked up an Arsonist, which is something you don't see me do very often. That's one of those medals that's pretty rare for me to pick up. But, like, when you've basically had a battleship burning for the entire game, you're probably going to have some damage. But we weren't able to kill him, so he kept being able to heal all that back, and then he just gave us more damage, right? Like, we've essentially done 140,000 damage to one ship, which is pretty funny. But as we shoot at the Henri out here, he's going to try to run away. There's not much he can do. Like, if he does want to fight, like, we just are better in a fight than he is. Like, it's just not even fair. I'm sorry. I know the Henri is technically higher level than us, but I feel like that in a match like this where you have competitor, like, similar amounts of firepower, that it all comes down to who is under the gun, right? Like, who is the one that is being put in compromising positions? And right now it's him. So, like, I'm not scared of this fight at all, and he isn't even shooting me anymore. He's shooting at the battleships, farming damage. But we're going to chunk him with some AP here as we catch him going broadside to us. And I know the Darkman is still around, so I'm keeping an eye out, and you can see torpedoes. Now, I wonder where these fast torpedoes could have come from, guys. I wonder if it would be a dirty little rotten torp boat running around. Now, here, we go ahead and use our last heal. Or, no, we got one more heal. I lied. But we get some HE out there, and we've already got the HE loading. Darkman does get himself spotted here, and this is a bold strategy. Now, I know it's game over at the end of the day. Like, there's no way he intends to win this. He's trying to distract me so that I eat some torpedoes. But, again, he's not really a threat to me unless he hits me with torpedoes. I've got plenty of health. He's not going to gun me down. Like, by the time he tries to reload, if he were to try to commit to an AP salvo on my broadside, like, by the time that he gets committed and to an angle, he's just dead. Like, we have stripped all of his health very quickly. Like, that is the power. And these French guns against destroyers are nasty. Not because their HE is anything special or anything like that, but because they're fast. Like, destroyers just can't dodge them. It's very difficult to dodge these shells. Ask me how I know. I've played many and many games in destroyers, and one of the worst things to have to fight against in a destroyer is a French cruiser because of the speed of the shells. Like, you just can't dodge them. There's a couple other cruisers out there that are similar in that regard, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trap the man. He gets another torp drop on me here, but I'm trying to trap him. I don't want him to get north of me and turn left, because that just prolongs the fight. So I'm trying to trap him up against the side here, and then he does double back, try to get my broadside. He's got AP loaded. He's going to get some damage, but at the end of the day, like, I'm going to get more quicker, right? And now we're full bow into him. We're going to take the shot on the bow. I was hoping somebody else would touch him real quick, and then we'd just be able to finish him, but of course, in true Spartan fashion, I got to leave him with just enough for the fire that the Kaaba set with one shell to get the kill. Go figure. But 178,000 damage, not a bad game at the end of the day. We got our Witherer, our Arsonist, we got our first blood, I think. I think that's what that was. But 3K base, top of the leaderboard, proving that, yes, Spartan may be a battleship main, but he can still play cruisers. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about the Saint Louis. And also, thank you to the person who, much like our buddy that was asking for the meme gunboat Shima build, I have fulfilled your request of bringing in a Saint Louis video. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.